Something you might hear on set, actually.
Oh, okay. So we're going to give your editor a heart attack.
Hello, everyone. I'm Freida Whales, and I'm truly humbled to be joined by the most photographed nun in the world. Amongst her drag peers, such as Coco, Peru, she is considered a miracle worker, and I would warn a guest that is due to her motivation for drag activism and community service. There is so much to get into in a short time with this extremely busy artist, so let's forget all our troubles, forget all our cares, and get down to it. I'd like to welcome Sister Roma.
Hello. Hi, Freida. How are you?
I'm doing good. That was my attempt at trying to do a sing-songy intro, but I don't think it worked.
If Coco said I'm a miracle worker, she's probably trying to imply that I'm blind.
Okay. Let's dive right into our first questions because we don't have a lot of time with you. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sisters of Perpetual and Indulgence and how you chose your name?
Sure. So the sisters started in San Francisco, California in 1979. So over 40 years ago, this guy moved from Iowa with 3 nuns' habits that he borrowed from a local convent. His name was Ken Bunch. And he and his friends were all hanging out one day and they decided to just throw on these nuns' habits and go out and see what would happen. And they went to the Castro and to around the Mission and out to the nude beach. And everywhere they went, people freaked out. So they decided that they were onto something and they formed a group called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And our founder that I mentioned was Sister Vicious Power Hungry Bitch. And so she and her friends started this group, and it really was just sort of a way to screw with people. Like they'd go out and just do theater, street art, really. Yeah. And then HIV and AIDS started to hit, and that's when the sisters really found their calling. And they were the first group ever to produce a safer sex pamphlet called Playfair that we still produce today. The first group ever to hold a fundraiser for people who were sick and dying and needed money from HIV AIDS, and really have been on the forefront of education and fundraising around the cause. So that's how that happened. I came along about 8 years after that. I joined the order in 1987. So I've been a sister for over 30 years, girl, probably longer than you've been alive.
Just.
Us, right? See? And that's one of the things I love about it. Like, don't ever feel like you're too young or you're too old, because you never know who you're going to meet and who will have an impact on your life. Because here we are now. And when I was just messing around joining the sisters, you were about to be born.
I was just a twinkle in my dad's eye.
Yeah, rascal. But so I actually got my name because I was inspired by The Wizard of Oz, which is one of my favorite movies. So my full name is Sister There's No Place Like Rome. Okay. Which is, of course, there's no place like home. But then I took Rome to mean Italy next to the Vatican where the Pope lives, you know, that whole kind of thing to give it a twist.
So you're not just a big fan of tomatoes.
Not tomatoes. Although I'll take it. So then I was quoted in the LA Times and they called me Sister No Place. And Sister Dana said, "Oh no, girl, we need to fix that. That's not good." And so we started calling me Sister Roma, and that really stuck.
Do you have any memories of your first times in drag that you could share?
Well, you know, it was a different time, obviously. Drag was certainly not as mainstream and as accepted and popular as it is now. And the sisters were also not as well accepted or embraced by everyone, even in our own community at the time. So this was the 80s. And I don't know why. I honestly had never in my life thought about doing drag. Like, I wasn't a drag queen. I wasn't I didn't do anything until I met the sisters. And I was so inspired by their activism and their fearlessness that when my friend Norman, who was Sister Luscious Lashes, said, "Just try the makeup," I did it. And I was very, I mean, you know, I'm still, hi, there's a lot here. But, you know, when I started, it was very much like war paint, super hard angles and thick and like big, hard blush. And took me a while to learn how to, you know, soften it up a little bit. But I thought I was amazing. I thought I was the most gorgeous, incredible thing I've ever seen. And I remember going to brunch the very first time I did drag, Sister Roma, and sitting there and like taking the knife and like holding it and looking at myself. I thought I was scared. You know, and I think that the secret is you have to believe in yourself and feel confident. And when you sell yourself like that, people just buy it. Like people were like, "Oh yeah, you know what? She is fierce."
You can put an expensive label on that can of tuna, right?
Exactly.
Can you give me a little insight to how come you guys all paint with like kind of that face?
Well, there's a lot of different theories about how it all started, but I will tell you that we were influenced by some groups in San Francisco, including the Coquettes and the Angels of Fairies, the Radical Fairies.
Okay.
And a lot of them were really extreme light face, and some even wore white face. So we borrowed heavily from them. And not all the sisters wore makeup at first. In fact, none of them did.
Okay.
It took a couple of years, and then Sister Vish started to wear the white face. I've always looked at it sort of as a way of, it removes any kind of race, any kind of gender. It sort of gives you a clear canvas. And then it also helps you know when you're looking at one of us, unless you're looking at Gottmik, you're looking at one of the sisters, right?
Yeah.
Of course, now everybody's going to do white face. White face is finally on the map.
Yeah.
Now that we have a white face queen on Drag Race. I mean, that's all it took. We've only been here for 40 years.
That's what all the legends have been saying. Like, we've been here for this whole time. Why haven't we been noticed? So obviously the sisters do a lot of outreach, and you've done now through 2 pandemics, the HIV AIDS and now COVID-19. Can you share some of the similarities and some of the differences between the two?
Yeah, I mean, they were both really scary, especially at the beginning, because no one knew how it was transmitted. So there was a lot of fear. HIV and AIDS decimated our community. I mean, it happened so fast. And the biggest difference is that no one really cared. It took a long time for us to fight and get attention and to make people realize that we were dying. So groups like ACT UP and the sisters took to the streets and really had to raise a lot of hell to get the attention that we deserved, really. COVID, of course, right away, because everybody could get it, became a national crisis. And the other similarities are that then we had to start wearing condoms, and the sisters took that up. And one of the things that we did all the time was called the condom ministry. We'd go to bars and street corners and everywhere our community gathered and hand out condoms and just encourage people to play safe. Yeah. Now, 30 years later, we have the Sisters Mask campaign. So I partnered with the city of San Francisco and the COVID team to do these posters. So you go like to the bus stops and all over town, and you'll see sisters wearing masks, encouraging people to be safe and to practice safe sex.
That's awesome. Safe sex.
I love it. practice safe sex then. Now we're practicing safe sex.
Perfect. I love that. I love how you kind of blended the two together that way. In my community, one of the things I'm most proud of was being part of a local story time that created waves across the country. Is there any piece of activism that you're really, really proud of? Well,
I've done a lot, but I think that definitely the thing that got the most attention was when I started the My Name Is campaign with Facebook. Drag queens around the United States and around the world really were getting their accounts flagged for using what they consider to be a fake name. And when it happened to me, I tried to get a hold of Facebook, and that is impossible. If you've ever tried, don't waste your time. So I went to Twitter and I said, tell Facebook that their real name policy is unfair and discriminatory, and put hashtag my name is Roma. Mm-hmm. And that tweet went viral. And the next day I had like CBS in my office talking to me about what had happened, and we started a whole movement. And here in San Francisco, we're so fortunate that we have a lot of really compassionate and passionate people. So right away, drag kings, burlesque performers, nightlife entertainers, gay authors, like everybody was like, we need to fix this. Mm-hmm. And then we got the city supervisor involved. And next thing you know, we have bullhorns and picket signs, and we went to Facebook. And it got international press. Like I was on CNN, BBC, sites in India, and these amazing blogs all over. It was just literally insane. But I knew that I was doing the right thing, and I was very clear on what our message was, and that was that we wanted Facebook to understand how our community uses identity. Like, I am Sister Roma. 30 years later, you can't tell me that that is not my name, and that's how my community knows me. So that's really what we wanted people to understand. And Facebook doesn't hate drag queens. They don't hate our community. They worked with us for 2 years to make changes to the way people report, the way that you can respond to it. And it's gotten a lot better, although it still happens. But that was something that was amazing piece of activism that I just sort of stumbled onto, and it just blew up.
Well, it's funny too, because I mean, like every celebrity has pretty much a stage name. Like Lady Gaga is not Lady Gaga. Like,
Right.
in 2020, the sisters had to cancel their annual Easter in the Park celebration, but the Hunky Jesus contest was moved online. Would you give us a brief overview of the contest and if there's any plans to move it online again this year?
Well, we sure are. So last year it was, everything was happening so fast, we didn't really have time to plan a whole show, but we partnered with the SF Queer Nightlife Fund, which is this amazing group of people here in San Francisco who jumped up right away. And every Sunday they do a quarantine dance, and they've raised like hundreds of thousands of dollars for queer nightlife and entertainers and party promoters and bar owners and anybody really who needs money. So the sisters were happy to join forces with them, and they invited us to do our Hunky Jesus and Foxy Mary contest online. This year, we're going to do like a 2-hour fully fleshed out show with drag performances, a bonnet contest, children's Easter performances, some speakers, couple big surprises that I can't talk about. And then of course our famous Hunky Jesus contest will be at the end like it always is.
Outside of drag, you are the creative director of Naked Sword / Falcon Studios Group. And how did you get into that role?
So I was always a fan of porn. And one of the first, when one of my best friends for like over 30 years is Michael Ewens. At the time was known as Shantae Bouvier, a drag queen who moved to San Francisco from Scottsdale, Arizona to work with Falcon Studios. So Shantae was really my introduction to the entire industry because she worked there. She introduced me to Shishi LaRue, Steven Scarborough, and Tim Valenti, and the rest is kind of history. Like I used to have a magazine and I needed images of hot men to put on the cover. So I would go up to them and ask if I could, have an image for the magazine. And then they started having me host events with them. And then we started traveling. And I'm a graphic artist by it's my profession. So I started doing some freelance work for Hot House. And that was over 25 years ago. Then I became the art director, and then Hot House got assumed by Naked Sword, Falcon Naked Sword. And now we have this huge, great conglomerate, the #1 porn company in the world, and I'm the creative director.
So not only saving lives, you're also saving lives in the bedroom.
Well, it's actually really great the way that the gay industry responded to HIV and AIDS, much like the sisters. They were like, it's our responsibility to show our community that safe sex can be hot sex. So Shishi was one of the pioneers in that. I had never worked for a condom-free studio. Everybody started using condoms right away. Now, thanks to PrEP, we don't have to use condoms anymore. There's intense testing and everything like that, so the protocols are in place. But it's a great combination for being a sister who promotes healthy sexual attitudes and freedom of expression, freedom of speech, something that we really stand for. And the porn industry goes hand in hand. It's been a great duo career.
And then our last little question, or request more like, do you think you could do a little whale call for us before you go?
Oh, of course. I mean, hello, I work in porn.
That was definitely the sauciest one I've heard so far.
Yeah? You turned me on, girl. What can I say? I think it's because we have matching hair today.
Yeah, we totally just vibed on the pinky peachy hair.
I love it. So if you'd like to find out more about me and my fascinating life, according to your producer, Jill, you can follow me everywhere on social media at Sister Roma. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, all of it. So check me out.
Thank you so much, Sister Roma. I hope you have a great night.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Make sure to like and subscribe for more interviews with famous people and me, Freida Whales.